I want to bring in lead global security analyst for the Washington Post, Josh Rogin, and senior fellow at the Washington Institute and curator of the Iranist on Substack, Holly Dagres. Glad to have both of you guys here. Let's talk about this, Josh, because the administration has said repeatedly that the war is over. But now the ceasefire on life support sounds like the complete opposite. Am I wrong here?
No, you're right. We're in a quagmire. This state of affairs was not only predictable, but predicted. And we're exactly where everyone except for Trump said they thought we'd be, which is a stalemate. And the Iranians have blockaded the strait, and we've blockaded their blockade. And essentially, we're playing a game of chicken, okay? And the Iranians are not going to blink because they don't care about the suffering of the Iranian people. And Trump's not going to blink because Trump doesn't care about the suffering of the American people. And so when you have a game of chicken where neither side has any incentive to blink, of course, it's going to lead to bad outcomes and possibly more violence, very tragically, actually. And so Trump has a plan, but he won't tell us what it is. Great. So what does that lead to? It leads to what we have here, which is a failure of communication.
What we have here is a failure to communicate. Someone famously once said that. But, you know, I'm wondering who they're communicating with. This has been a long-standing question that you and I have actually spoken about, Holly, because the president insists that the moderate voices within the new regime are, quote, dying to make a deal and are much more respected than the people that he calls the lunatics. So what do you know about the new leadership? Are they any more likely to make a deal now than they did back in 2015?
Well, I think there's a lot to unpack. So a lot of the top military and political leadership were killed during the war.
Right.
And so there's been these characters that have risen to the ranks that are more hardline and more repressive in their rhetoric. And given the situation with the war itself, they see that bending the knee, or in the words of the president, encapsulation would be like giving up the Islamic Republic itself. And so they are not willing to give in to this rhetoric because they believe that the moment they give up the nuclear program, the ballistic missiles, then the Islamic Republic cease to exist.
I want to play what Netanyahu had to say, because he says the war is not over until this happens, and this has taken place.
It's not over because there's still nuclear material, enriched uranium, that has to be taken out of Iran. There's still enrichment sites that have to be dismantled.
How do you envision the highly enriched uranium will be removed from Iran?
You go in and you take it out.
With what? Special forces from Israel, special forces from the United States?
Well, I'm not going to talk about military means, but what President Trump has said to me, I want to go in there. And I think it can be done physically. That's not the problem.
Specifics matter. I mean, you're going to go in there and get it out. People are wondering what that really means, but how do you interpret that marker set by him?
Right. Well, it's clear the objective is not obtained. When you're doing a blockade, that is an act of war. That means we are at war. We've made zero progress on securing their nuclear material. By the way, Trump's own director of national intelligence said they weren't even working towards a nuclear weapon when we started the war. But put that aside for a second. The idea that we're going to send in U.S. or Israeli men and women into a hardened subterranean battlefield to drag out hundreds of canisters of highly volatile nuclear material under fire is crazy. That's an insane thing to suggest. And let's pray that doesn't happen, because that's not going to end well. That's a mission that's not going to end well for those American or Israeli forces, even in the best case scenario. So I think that is a decoy. Obviously, the only way to get the material out safely is to do it in agreement with the Iranians. That would require a negotiation that the Trump administration doesn't seem to be taking very seriously. And that's why we are where we are, because Trump and Netanyahu's rhetoric does not match the policy, and that also does not match the reality on the ground. And that's why we have a completely chaotic and dysfunctional situation.
Well, this week, President Trump will be on the ground with the Chinese president this very week. And Holly, the administration imposed new sanctions on companies that are helping facilitate oil from Iran to China. Is that going to be the right level of pressure to stop China from helping Iran?
Well, the China-Iran relationship is complicated. Interestingly, it was the Trump administration withdrawal from the JCPOA in 2018 that started what became known as the Look Towards East policy, which made Tehran look towards Russia and China. And so we've seen them join member organizations like BRICS and the Shanghai Operation Organization. And so, but truth be told, the Iranians need China more than China needs the Iranians. And so while Tehran's top oil buyer is Beijing, I think that Beijing could look for other options. And I think in this situation, I don't think they're going to want to ruffle the feathers of the Trump administration.
Really quickly, Josh, a who's who of business leaders are actually going to give that. Tim Cook, you've got Elon Musk, and they're going to join the president on his trip to China. I mean, why is he bringing them?
He wants to make a deal. These business leaders want to do business in China. They're not concerned about China's help for Iran.
They'll sweeten the pot.
No, they want something. They want access to the Chinese market. What they'll have to give Xi Jinping remains to be seen. It could be concessions on trade, on technology, or on Taiwan. Either way, American businesses want to make money in China. That's what they do. You can't blame them for wanting to make money. But the President of the United States' job is to protect American national security and advance American national security interests, which are at odds with that objective. And right now, going to Beijing, it seems that Xi Jinping has the cards.
Josh, Holly, thank you both so much.